The parish council meeting now then. Apologies and reasons for absence.
Councillor Brown is still away.
Still away, wow. Do we have any declarations by members of any interest pecuniary or other than pecuniary in accordance with the council's code of conduct?
No.
No? Don't have any applications to approve. Remember, please, that this meeting is being recorded for publication, as indeed the previous one was, which I didn't have on the agenda to remind everybody. There's the microphone. At this point, the meeting will be adjourned for the public session. That session is for the public, yourselves, to express any views or ask any questions on matters on the agenda. After the public session, then you are welcome to stay and observe the rest of the meeting, but you aren't able to speak only in the public session, which I will now open. Who would like to say anything to us? All very quiet.
I think we should have some housing development in the village.
It's not on the agenda.
I know, the village is stagnating.
Right, heard. Are you here for one of the applications?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Which is the
25 Street.
that's the small cottage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one. Okay. Is there anything you want to tell us about it?
Basically, we're a family of 4, and we've got to a stage now where we're sort of outgrowing our house. But we'd really like to sell out. Basically.
Okay. Does anyone else want to comment on that? Do any councillors want to ask questions about it? You're a neighbour, aren't you, Julia?
Yes, we are, but I don't see, from what I've understood, it's just one story.
It's the same height.
It's the same height,
Same height, but it's going out the side.
So standing in the street looking at your house, it's on the right where you park your car.
Yes.
Yes.
And out the back, the conservatory will be removed, so it will make the garden bigger.
Yes.
Because it's a bit of a,
Okay.
leaking old conservatory, so
Yeah.
we'll remove that. Yeah, but it's just going out the side, then it's joining on. I've got a music studio at the back, and it will just join on to that.
Well, from what I must admit, I haven't been to Ashford to look at the plans, but
You can look at them online,
Yeah.
oh yes, I could look at them online. You're quite right.
and you can submit any comments to Ashford online if you wish.
Yes, I see. Okay. No, I mean,
Yeah, no, it's
I'm sure it's very straightforward.
Hopefully.
I think, it's such
So,
a...
when are you thinking of starting?
As soon as we
As soon
as we
Yeah,
can.
as soon as we can. I mean, we'd like to.
Oh, in an ideal world, probably June, something like that, wouldn't it be?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long the
I
plan.
don't know, you know what builders are like at the moment, it's...
Yeah. We'd like to get some
Yeah,
builders.
and building materials.
Yeah.
So what do you, it's going to be one room or what do you...
No, it's a reconfiguration of the bottom, like the first
Yeah.
floor, and then an extra
Yeah.
bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a covenant on it at all in the house?
No,
No.
No.
It's not listed, is it?
no.
But the other one is, Julia's is. Your building's listed.
Yes.
Arguably, I would think it's probably not counted as in the curtilage of it. I mean, it's adjoining or adjacent.
So from what we've understood from our architects, it wasn't...
They wouldn't count it.
No.
I wouldn't have thought so. Okay, anything else to add from your side? Anyone else? No? So can I close the public session?
Yes.
Okay, good, closed. So agree the minutes of the last meeting, and is everyone happy with?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, matters arising, the ACRK update, we talked about that a bit before in the public meeting. The winding up is continuing, Preston Reeves, the accountants, are doing it. Efforts are ongoing to reinstate the services and the key staff under a new structure. I'm working with the Chief Executive of... Good night.
Good night.
I'm working with
Safe journey.
the Chief Executive of the of CALC, the Kent Association of Local Councils, in assisting the consultant who's been employed by ACRE, the national organisation, Action with Communities in Rural England, to develop solutions. KCC and ABC are both closely involved, and leaders of all the other districts have been informed of the situation. I anticipate speaking to Jerry Clarkson and or Tracy Curley again. I've seen them once at the end of January, as you know, from last month. I'm hoping to see one or other or both of them again shortly, once other decisions that are just on the cusp have been finalised and I know how to pitch it. I'm working with the external consultant on how to do that in the hope of getting those things together. Coronation celebrations, the parish council, we've said, haven't we, will be providing coronation medals to all the children.
Yes, I've heard from the head and he's keen for us to go ahead with the badges,
Right,
green ones, and to have Wittersham CP school on it.
Right.
I've asked for numbers, but he hasn't come back to me, so I think I might have to go by the office to get that.
Do I understand he was very pleased with the design?
Well, it's
Yeah.
whatever. He sent
Yeah.
me the
Was that
the
what he
link.
sent you?
Yes, he
Oh.
sent me the link.
That the comments that I got back.
Yeah, it's just the numbers I
You've
need
got to
to
just
put.
see if you can get Wittersham CP
Yes,
school or
it's
just
the
Wittersham
word.
school.
Yeah, the words again.
Mm.
Because it's the only school, but I know it is technically a Church of England primary school. The community celebration will be a joint effort on the sports ground on Sunday the 7th of May, as we know, with or without a stall, displaying details of problems with the sewage system. And the possibility of showing the coronation event live in the village hall on the 6th of May, the Saturday, was being investigated by Paul here. I can tell you, Paul, if you don't know, the resident of the rectory has moved out, but broadband in the village hall is under discussion again, and I'll talk about that under
No,
items of
I've
information.
spoken
You've
to
had it
Sam
already?
about it.
Okay, that's good. That's
already.
good. Okay, fair enough. Because that could solve it if it's done in time. Right, the next thing is the bus. Go
Can
on,
I
please?
come into
Of
this?
course, feel free.
It's just that I wanted to try and liaise it all together so that everybody in the village knows what's going on with all the different
Yeah.
organisations. Obviously it'll be in the Outlook, but I'm wondering whether we can do a leaflet drop. Whether we're talking later about funding, whether we can bring that in. I mean, I wanted to bring up something sort of like this, which says Wittersham's coronation celebrations over the whole weekend, 6th, 7th, 8th of May, best decorated house competition, which you didn't mention, which the parish council will be organising. Any dwelling within the 30-mile-per-hour signs. First prize, we talked about £100, then 50, then 25. Then Sunday the 7th of May, 11 a.m, special service in church, followed by the choir singing madrigals in the churchyard with a glass of bubbly available.
That's more or less it. I think it's more, not necessarily madrigals only, but perhaps coronation music or...
Can I sort some wording out with you so that we get,
Of course you can.
get what's...
Well, you've got it very nearly right anyway.
And then Sunday 7th of May on the sports field from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m, coronation fete and tea. I thought if everybody in the village had something like this, they can pin up on their notice board or somewhere so that they know what's going on.
So do we want to put that out in the May Outlook or in the April Outlook?
So I think, could we not just do the drop in Outlook?
That's what I mean. In
No.
Outlook. I meant put the leaflet in Outlook.
Yeah.
But my concern is that does it get, will people look at it?
Well,
Sorry, did I just comment? So we had a leaflet drop. I think Merv did the horticultural
Oh,
programme,
yes,
which
yeah.
he very sweetly, because I know from deliverers before that they didn't like to put them in, so time consuming, so he very sweetly put all them in. But Jenny said when she delivered them to some of the deliverers, it was then quite difficult, they kept falling out. So I think flyers are great if they're just one sheet. But I think if there's room, your best option is to get it maybe in the centre page as well as an option.
Oh yes, I would put it as well. But I just wanted something that they can, I was going to get two on them,
And then they can...
so that they can just, it's handy.
I think the challenge is we don't really have the resources to do an alternative drop. to
No,
the
it's
to
got
the
be
to
with
the outlook.
magazine.
If you want to get them to read it, just put right at the top, big letters, £100 prize, right? And people read it.
Tell you another possibility, I'm just thinking out loud, and I don't know if you'll like it. It could be, of course it's only Wittersham, that's the problem. I was going to say it could be the front page of Outlook, the colour, but it doesn't cover stone.
It could. I think. Yeah. You do it. You could do it as a separate leaflet, and it can go. I think as long as they don't have to put it in, they can just grab one. They'd be happy to do it, but it would have to go on
But
the
I
same
don't
time.
mind putting them in.
Could the people who deliver just drop it in?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Drop
But
it
it has to
into
be
the
the same
ladies.
time with the delivery.
If you put it in and no one opens the Outlook, they won't even realise it's in
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm saying.
No, they can post it on top.
Yes.
They don't have to go in. I think it's better
You can
maybe
put it
not
together.
to go in. Is what
On
I'm
Right,
saying.
okay.
If they've
They're
got just a
happy.
pile with
You think
it,
they'd be
I'll
okay?
double check.
Well, it only happens once in a
I was
lifetime.
gonna say,
It's
and
not
also,
regular, is
By
it?
the time they've moaned about it, they've already delivered it.
Yeah.
And it can be printed with
That was like we
Outlook
don't
as well.
have to do it again.
Cheaper than you print.
Yeah. And can I, this is totally a personal comment. Having many years ago been in branding and advertising, make sure there's a bit more than just text, because there will be
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
I can help
Yeah.
with that, because otherwise people just go.
We
Look, some people just go there. It needs to be a bit.
Can do words.
I'm not an art worker, but I can find you a few bits and bobs there.
Right, good. Okay.
Dear dinosaur.
Exclamation celebrations. The bus shelter, the work on the design is being considered by Greg, as we said earlier. I'm due to meet him to discuss what he's found regarding the structural integrity. I've also consulted the History Society to see if they have any old pictures of the shelter, which he was interested in, but we haven't found anything yet. They all have things that I thought, obviously they weren't going to take pictures of the shelter, but I thought they might have just caught it in the scene, but there aren't any. They all face the other way at the Ewan Lamb.
Is there any deadline to the costings? It's just going to drift, is it?
I hope not.
Well, shouldn't we be considering asking for a deadline?
We've sort of got
Well,
a budgetary.
We've got
We had the budgetary framework,
we had the early
because
thing. At the minute it's-
Yvonne gave us the cost of the new one from Leicester.
9,000 something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought we agreed
That's
that
what the budget was.
yes,
That's right, that's all
Yeah.
done. The thing at the minute is that Greg got on to me the other day with an email saying that he'd quite like to have a talk to me about the structure, which I haven't done with him yet.
Yes, I think he's examined the structure, hasn't he, to see various things.
Yeah.
But I mean, otherwise I think it's going to start drifting.
Well, we've been quite quick so far.
Well, it's you may think so.
Well. Okay,
so yes,
call it bus shelter. Right, highways improvement plan, the list will get considered by, will be submitted by the clerk for discussion with KCC officers, and I fear then that they will tell us they don't like that, but we'll have to see. Right, the planning applications then, previously forwarded to council. The first one is Henley Cottage, which is yours. Demolition of the conservatory and sunroom, extension to the dwelling with a flat roof link to existing garage and studio and associated works. Who's got anything to say about that?
No.
Who's got anything to say about the little
Well, I briefly looked at it and
Yeah.
I will support it.
I would support it on the same basis that
Yes.
I had a look round.
Okay, so we're supporting that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's painful.
We've now got two listed building consents. I don't know the reason there's two. One is part conversion of the garage and one is other things. But when you then look at them, they've both basically got the same papers for both.
But I would imagine it's because it's a garage that they're changing, and the rest is an internal of the house.
Garage is under
So
the house.
yes,
Yeah.
so it's a trick garage.
I
is
think-
treated separately.
I think it's two fees. Anyhow,
Which is what you want.
Next to me.
the one on the garage, the conclusion of the technical report says not significant to the listing. Who's got anything to say about that? We don't need to say very
Can
much
I
about
ask
this.
Sam a question, please? In the sense that I found it was interesting in the sense that it's got a flying freehold, what have you, which was not uncommon in the days that they've done. But I just, this is a classic case of someone's gone and done the work. I think someone's gone and done the work, then they want to sell the property, and oops, we forgot to apply for building consent at the time with a listed building. My question to Sam, and I'm not trying to sort of embarrass you at all, is there any impact on this on your property? To me, that's quite an important question.
Yes,
I think probably at this point, I hadn't thought about it at the time, but you probably should have declared an interest here because you are very intimately linked to it.
It's my parents' property.
So I think probably you're in a position where you can give us information.
Yeah,
you probably shouldn't express a view on it or vote.
No, I wouldn't do, because obviously it's my neighbour. Obviously all the details that are there in terms of the second part of everything that's happened. Obviously, from my point of view, from my parents, the ensuite that's over, so ours goes over the top of their bedroom, and then our living room is a little bit under their bedroom, so flying freehold on 2 parts. But the ensuite on their bedroom that they had put in did leak last year, and it leaked through to our living room. So I was going floorboards trying to find where the leak was, and then realised that actually it wasn't in our house. And they rectified that. I don't know what, or they're not using the shower. So it did have a direct impact on the house. So that's been resolved, I'm sure.
Because what they're not asking for is, well, they are in a way, they're asking for planning, having already done the work. They're not asking to do any work.
Yeah, but the point surely is that if they had gone through the normal procedure, then it could well have been that someone would have said, yes, you can go ahead and do that, but the conditions are that you make sure that the plumbing, etc., is fit for purpose. So what we've got here is a situation where they didn't decide to apply for planning permission, and we're aware of the fact that there were problems. So if you think about that from a future purchaser, if you think about that from a future purchaser coming in, they might be unaware of that, and the neighbour is going to have a repeat of the problem because you're not in control of managing the quality of the drainage, the pipework, etc., in there. So the fact is that if you do apply for a conversion in a listed building, you have to adhere to certain standards, and arguably you might find that those standards were not adhered to at the time, because it could have been someone, no disrespect to home plumbing, I'm not one of them, but they could have gone in and just done a bit of this, a bit of that, and then there's a leak. So I'm just a bit uncomfortable, people going, and we've talked about this in the past, where people think, it doesn't apply to me, unless you have to then sell, and then your solicitor will say,
that's why they're asking.
Yeah, exactly.
It's up for sale.
Yeah. And are we able to, maybe we can't do this, but are we able to say anything? Because sometimes when we give planning, when we support a planning application, we sometimes give conditions that we would like to see in there. I don't know if that makes it too.
The only listed building consent is, of course, not, and it's retrospective. It's only listed building. It's not planning. I suspect part of what you're raising, which is a very good point, Paul, is really to do with building regs. But it would get wrapped up, I suppose, with a listed building consent, and the fact that it's got this flying freehold issue tangled together, as is quite common down that end of the street. It's difficult.
Well, we've had a previous example where the listed building aspect and building regs and planning all came together, which is Roger Kimber's house, just further up the street, when he had to sell that. When he sold it, when he was wanting to make alterations inside, and he followed the letter of the law, to put it candidly, and that was all then resolved. So the construction work inside the property, which is saying, was done in an approved way and inspected.
The garage that we had.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me question this. Were we to conclude, and we haven't yet, were we to conclude that really the listed building retrospective consent isn't a particular issue for us, I mean, it's a bit technical for the listed, the conservation lot. But that it was reported to us that there have been issues concerning the flying freehold that should be examined. Is that something we should say? Are we entitled to say it, and are you happy if we did say it? Answer, not very sure.
Yeah.
I don't think we know.
I just think for us not to note or ask for it to be noted, so there's absolutely no record that potentially, because the work was done unsanctioned and there was a subsequent issue, if that's not on file, I'm uncomfortable with that, because if it had been done correctly, it might have been avoided. And I'm also thinking, not just of you, but of a future purchaser, going in.
Okay, so if we went for something along the lines that we have no particular points to make on the retrospective consent for the listed building work, but we note that the building is subject in the area concerned to interlocking flying freeholds, which should be considered in any decision, or something like that. We've then at least noted it.
I mean, the alternative is, a difficult one, because if, for instance, we and then the planners insisted that everything reverted to how it once was, that's much more likely to cause disruption to the neighbours. If you see what I mean, then leaving it as it is. So it's
the chances of it reverting are very slim, I suspect.
Indeed.
I mean, they usually let these things go.
Could we insist that or could we ask for a, I don't know what you call it, a professional building inspection to take place?
Yeah.
Well, we can't, but I mean, hopefully the heritage officer, you'd like to think, would go and look at it, but I suspect won't. And then anyway, he's a heritage officer.
Has it happened many times? Because I assume, the listed buildings, you have to. I remember when we had the guy round when we first moved in, and we wanted to paint, and we wanted to sort of see what we could do, and maybe convert the garage, which had the lapse plumbing. He said we couldn't paint the front door.
You couldn't
had to
paint
stay
the
white. I said, well, it wasn't white when it was a pub. It's got to stay white. And that was it. So, we've always been like, oh gosh, what can you can't do? And I just assumed that you had to get.
Well, there is a listed building officer who would come out to any sort of listed building that was having alterations internally. And I mean, they do, don't they? We know they do.
They used to. I'm not
Well, that's what Roger Kimber had. He had.
Oh, definitely then.
Yeah.
I mean, it did used to happen, and they could be very sticky. But I just think that
For instance, at Powell Street Court, within the last year or 5, they wanted to knock down walls inside the house, and they got the listing building person along. He said, well, you can't do any of that, you can't do any of that, you can't do any of that. And they said, well, how do you mean you can't do it? Until they did it anyway.
Exactly.
I mean,
Which I guess, they're not an issue until you maybe come.
Yeah. So it's a delicate balance, isn't it? Because they quite often refuse permission. But
can we recommend that a listed building officer inspects?
That's kind of where I was going, with
and we say that we have noted there has been damage.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we can note that. We've only had it reported to us, and
Well,
it
we
sounds
can say it's been
not
reported
keen on
to
that.
us.
We can say it's been reported to us. I mean, it'll be picked up on the recording, I guess.
Yes, but
So,
see, if they're applying the letter of the law, they'd insist that they could insist it was put back to how it was.
good, probably.
Which might not be what really is wanted.
No one wants it. Probably not going to happen. Okay, well, if we can say something like the fact that the detail of the listed building regulations are not one for us, and that we have no particular problems with the listing, the heritage officer taking a decision. However, we're aware that there are complicated interlocking flying freeholds, and we urge that the heritage officer should go and inspect to make sure that it's not impacting on the neighbouring building adversely, which is also listed.
just as out of information, the neighbour would have been advised that this is going on, so the neighbour has an opportunity to make comments.
Did you actually invite this one?
I didn't know. Because I knew that Sam obviously would would be, and I mean she has obviously the opportunity to.
Yeah, we got
Go
the letter,
direct.
so I sent it to Mum. So, you've asked me a question.
As Sam
I've
said,
asked it,
she's not the owner of the house.
No.
No.
So, obviously, if they object, my parents, they have the opportunity to object, which I don't think they do. It's just you've asked me the question about the freehold and have I had an issue. That's a small issue. There's never been any.
Well, I
Is there
mean,
anything like that? So, that's.
we're between two choices really. One is to say, look, it's really not much for us, and we've not worried about listed building issues in the past because they're too technical for us.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, there's Paul saying we really ought to be noting something,
Yes.
and therefore, if you try and scratch together some wording along those lines, then we'll do something on that.
We have to know, get some note.
I think perhaps the easiest way is to draw attention to the fact that the interlocking flying freeholds are with another listed building,
Yes, that's right.
which has to therefore be properly considered.
Yeah.
Because some of the work was involved in that area. It was, as you said, it was over your sitting room.
Yeah, I think that was done before we even moved in.
Yeah,
though,
indeed,
but
but-
I don't really know.
All right, we'll try and make something of that. And then Anchor Barn, Peeling Quarter Road, the proposed garden building. This is definitely building a village in small steps, isn't it, Anchor Barn?
Mm.
That the fourth one we've had? Or
That's like a double office, isn't it?
What?
Is that is this the double
Yes,
office? Rather than a
Office.
garden building, it's a double office.
Well, I looked at that purely on a planning thing. Bear in mind that their next door neighbours' work's already started on the construction of the car museum. And I looked at that and I thought, from a planning point of view, I couldn't see any objection to it.
It's right up near the road, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's going to look, looking at the drawings, it's going to just look like a sort of, like a small barn.
Yes, that's right.
That's where the digger is at the moment.
That's not this one. That's next door. But remember, the chap who owns where the digger is. That's where he wants. He's got his representative come along and give us a detailed explanation
We
of
heard all
the
that,
multiple valuable car
Yes.
storage facility with a lift and all sorts of things.
Yeah. Up to 6 cars.
The 6
I
cars.
did.
Which motor museum?
Well, that was
the type
my
of-
sort of yes.
I
Well,
did.
we were supposed to actually allude to the fact that these were very valuable 6 cars. Well, that's what he said, in the spirit of openness and freedom of information.
But yes.
Quickly.
You're causing Yvonne to get anxious.
Yeah, the work has started, Alan.
I did ask the neighbour that the drive went beside because they got theirs. So I did invite them,
Yeah.
but I haven't heard anything
No.
because I thought nobody else has ever commented in that area.
No.
So I didn't
It-
ask everybody, but I did ask the ones that I thought would be immediately concerned with
The
it.
work is progressing quite quickly.
That's not something else.
On Anchor Barn. You mean on Anchor Barn, don't you?
Right, are people happy with Anchor Barn then?
Should we ask that it stays with the house
Do the
in
usual.
case there's
Yes.
a form
Yes.
of conversion later
Yes.
on?
Shouldn't be severed. I suspect, to be honest, those ones along there are all quite big and expensive, so it's probably less likely that they would want to sell a little barn out the corner of their garden. You never know.
No, we don't have it.
Okay, you're quite right. So are we happy with that then?
Yes.
Right. Next one is the Swan ACV, Asset of Community Value. Now the Swan was registered as an Asset of Community Value for 5 years by camera in, I think, about 2016. I didn't go back and look at it about then. It lasts for 5 years, and I applied for the registration to be renewed when it ran out.
Yeah.
But that was refused by ABC. First on the grounds, it took them about 6 weeks to do it, but first on the grounds that it needed to be a new application and not a renewal. Subtle difference. And secondly, because the ownership then was in the process of changing and they needed to know who the owner was. I bought the title documents from the land registry the other week, and the Swan is now registered in the name of Kevin Gillespie
Yeah.
at his previous address in Brookland. So I hope he's got forwarding with the Royal Mail. So a new application for registration can be made if we agree tonight.
Yeah.
I suggest if we do this, and obviously it's up to a decision yet, if we do this, I think we should tell Kevin as a courtesy, and the question then would be which other councillor will come with me to speak to him. I think it should be two of us.
Yes, agree.
I'm so happy
So
to.
who will do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You will do that, will you, Colin?
What?
Did you say you will do it, or are you just agreeing?
So I'm just agreeing.
Or you just
I'm happy to come because obviously I'm trying to get a piece out of them for the outlook as well, so it's twofold.
Okay, good. Well, let's see then. Do we agree that we should be applying for the ACV as a resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Who's going to not
Secondly.
what do I mean first? Propose. Who's going to propose it? All is, and Sam's going to second it. Okay, and we're all happy with that?
Yes.
So we're going to do an ACV, and Sam will come with me to see him. Right, I shall stand behind.
Take care.
Bye-bye. I'll stand behind you, Sam.
Thank you for the wine.
Pleasure.
Nice to see you both.
Thank you very much.
Right, that's good. Consider agreeing a budget for any request for funding towards the coronation celebrations. I suggested that this go in formally because we're not asked for any money at the minute, but if we are, we will be coming up into the election period, and although PERDA doesn't seem to apply to us very strongly, it can sort of, it's in the rules. So we shouldn't be taking decisions once that starts, which is not very long away now, so many weeks before the election. We shouldn't be doing anything as councillors if we are standing for election that makes us look good. So the best thing I thought was to agree now an amount of money that Yvonne has then got under delegation, so that if she's asked, she can decide. Because when we did the delegation, we said that she would normally do things that were kind of relatively straightforward rather than off the wall, and this is a bit one-off. Is that all right?
Yes.
What sort of money do we think it should be? Not that we necessarily spend it, merely that it's available.
Are we including the prize fund for the best dressed house in
Well,
this
that's
budget?
175 then, but
Yeah.
that we can agree that tonight if we want to.
Okay. So
Separately, I mean, that's a definite. This is only just saying there's money available if the sports club or whoever comes along and says, "Can we have something?"
well, for example, if we manage to sort out something, a showing of the coronation live in the village hall,
and it costs £100 or
and
£200.
well, it could be cake and tea.
Oh yeah.
So I would suggest to give Yvonne, if this is the right way of putting it, £500 budget facility, but I wouldn't necessarily have to. I do the prize fund separately for the record.
I think 500 is actually at the low end. In fact,
Yeah, I would agree with you.
because this is only going to be once in another decade or two.
I'm trying to think what else. What other?
Well, we don't know yet.
We don't really know. We'll make it higher than that then.
Yeah,
You see, they're not very likely to come along and ask for a marquee hire because you won't be able to get them for love nor money.
They have said that they're not going down that road.
they're not going on that road, but
No.
Is
Do we
there,
need the staff?
I thought initially
Do
we
staff?
spoke. I thought we said when we were having a chat that £1,000.
You know, I have no problem with 1,000
Yeah,
because it's
okay.
only
We may not spend it at all.
Indeed, it's only a limit.
May not spend any.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
It's a
is anything happening after 5 o'clock in the village
Not that I'm
on the
aware.
day?
So we could maybe
I-
speak
Not at the
to,
moment.
could we not speak to the pub about doing something as well?
I'm sure that I would be surprised if Kevin doesn't see the coronation Sunday main day Sunday evening as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because typically they always have music on a Sunday
Yeah.
evening
Yeah.
in the summer. Yeah, the live
Well,
bands.
they would have done, for sure.
Yes.
And I mean, Kevin's not necessarily the most predictable of landlords, and if you see what I mean. And,
No.
Sorry, I'm being careful.
No, but I know that
I
they're
mean,
keen for new customers. So actually, if we could, when we go to speak about the ACB, if we say we're doing something here on the Saturday, obviously the
Daytime.
daytime it will be on the
Yeah.
Sunday, and then could we work to
Yeah.
agree something, you know,
Yeah.
that he would enjoy, but also
Yeah.
that we've got a
Yeah,
feeling of what other
Yeah.
people might enjoy. It might,
It's,
Something to encourage him.
yeah,
it's far better given a greater amount
Okay,
and then
Yeah.
not, and
It's only
then not
available.
meeting it.
Yes.
Well, let's say 1,000,
for our toilet
Yeah.
stall stand,
and then there's also the prizes that we'll agree separately
for the toilet stall
in the
stand.
same resolution, as it were.
It's got to be an
So,
opportunity there.
That's all right. And yeah, you should also, of course, have his, not necessarily for dinner by then, I don't know, but he's reckoning on having breakfast and lunch available from about the 4th of April, I think is his
That's,
present
I
target
think that's
date.
what you said to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
Just, yeah, George said hey.
So a month later, he might have got dinners going.
Hmm.
Fingers crossed.
Indeed. Okay.
Okay.
Right, good. Thank you. Quote for work on the cemetery trees as per the report. 1,650.
Yes, if you remember, the report that we had was the lime trees, 3 lime trees needed the dead wood taken out because they're actually hanging over the footpath. So we've got the 3, it's a cemetery, we've got the 3 lime trees, we've got ash dieback
Yeah.
down the bottom and the 3 dead branches that are obviously into the orchard, but when they fall, or one's already come our way, they come over into the cemetery.
That's right.
I met Richard T.G. Smith there, and he's got new equipment which is really safe for his workers, and it's on caterpillars, so going over the ground, it won't affect.
The damage is the same way.
Yeah. And yes, it's 1,650 plus that.
So it's plus that. 1,650 plus that.
We've got to do it because we've got a recommendation.
And you can do it start next week, should we agree?
I think we progress it on the paper.
Yeah.
I would
The
recommend
only,
it.
the only thing to just stress before we push the button on that is that under our financial regulations we should have had more quotes than we've had. We're going from a local supplier who we've used before. I don't have a problem with using them, but we should definitely resolve that we are taking this action to suspend, as it were, our financial regulations and using single tender action.
Yes, I think you're right.
Mm.
But I think we should progress it.
But we should, but that will be in, we
Yeah.
should be made clear, you know. Okay, good. Can we have a proposal and a seconder for that one, I think then?
Calls it.
Okay, that's Alan and Sue, and we're all agreeing. Good.
Move with the money.
Right, the next things are correspondence. The email from Judy, would we like a stall at the coronation celebration on the sports field? I think we're going for that, aren't we?
Yes.
What I'm not sure about is whether we have to find our own table and our own backdrop if we want to have any posters.
Well, we could. I mean, I've got a trestle table.
Leslie's got a trestle table as well.
And,
Leslie,
and I've already sent down emails asking for people to do posters. Or I just sent one to Felicity tonight actually,
Yeah.
because I know you've got grandchildren to,
Yeah.
and Sue and Yvonne, saying wouldn't they all the next generation like to contribute to poster production?
Right. Okay, so we're going to do this then.
Yeah, and now.
I was going to suggest something that could be used more than once. And from experience, the charity I chair in London, we have these pop-up banners that are on rolls. They're about that wide. They pop up to 6 feet. There's a rod behind that holds them up. And I thought one of the things about it's a touch Pythonesque, as in what does the council do for you? For those who remember what do the Romans do for you? But actually, what you did tonight, and good job too, was you gave a pretty succinct shopping list of all the things the parish council does.
Yeah.
And just mindful of this whole thing about Kevin saying, do you want to stagnate or not? And I think for the
You were
store.
talking about a parish council. He was talking about a parish council.
No, he wasn't. I think that for the stall, if we take the stall, to have a pop-up banner alongside the table or what have you, which lists the sort of major things that we do in terms of highways, litter, social housing, etc., etc. We have about 8 or 9 points of the key things that we deliver the services we deliver as a reminder, because most people it's not in the front of their mind, and I think if we're going to have a stand like that, it's an opportunity to at least remind people.
We educate some who don't know, and appeal to them. As Miriam said, there's a it's not just the young ones and the older ones. There is a whole array of ones in the middle. I'm not saying they're going to be jumping to join the parish council, but I think it's putting it in their minds, those sort of things. Even if they just go past and they glance and they see, they
And the other thing that goes with that is, and I'm mindful of the front page of the Outlook, which is about volunteering.
Yeah.
One of the things that the elephant in the room tonight is some of the people over there have great ideas, and then you say who'd like to volunteer, and nobody steps forward.
That's the one that, apart from drainage coming up, that's what I set off talking to you about first.
And I think maybe we have two tracks. We have one,
volunteers.
and maybe it's an opportunity to say, just literally on this parish council desk, if you'd like to put your name forward to volunteer, or we can find the right words, please sign up here. And at least there's some interaction then.
And I think what would be nice, not that some of us are always going to be parish councillors, but who are your parish councillors, and then underneath how you can get involved or volunteer next.
Well, the volunteering
or you
part,
maybe not want that, but
we know for the volunteering, we've got concerns about the hall, although you've possibly got some takers now. The film club, which apparently there's one possible, you said, Steve Schurecker, I think, may have one. There's the Outlook committee. There's councillors for co-opting, if we don't come up with 7 as a result of the election. And the one that I hadn't thought of, but it was mentioned tonight, absolutely right, the community volunteer. The volunteer warden. So, there's quite a few to put up there, and I totally agree, try and get people to say, okay, which one are you going to do?
Well, I've got to speak to the other, but I spoke to my chairman, we'd quite like a stool or table or something, but obviously I can't be on 3 different.
Can we do a combined one?
Combined one.
I mean, a combined village hall parish council one. Volunteers, village hall parish council one. Gives it a bit more substance, doesn't it?
Sure. Well, it also, as Sam just said, we can't. I mean, if these things will have to be manned, and trying to do too many of them is its own problem.
Indeed.
So, okay, why don't we then say we will have one, but it will have it with the village hall as well? I mean, whether you just squat there or not, whatever.
Well, with that budget, we can provide free beer. That'll pull people in, won't it?
We'll be able to put some in from the village hall as well.
Right, okay. And should we have anything on drainage there or not?
Yes, I know.
Because I'm going to have to talk to Southern Water to see what I can get. I mean, the trouble with drainage is it's a good opportunity, but on the other hand, it's a bad opportunity,
I think, I think just being there to answer people's questions, and if it's on the banner that, what we deal with, and drainage is one of them, we can ask questions, or whether we can just have a box of if you've got any suggestions or issues with Southern Water.
I wonder if the way to do it, to draw them in, I mean, it's easy to think of these things and not so easy to do them. I wonder if the way to draw them in is to see if they wish to complain about drainage. Do you have a drainage problem? Sign here, sort of thing. And if you get their name and address, then you're into saying, okay.
That's a great idea. And what you do is you have Sam's spare toilet bowl, right? No, everyone has to put their complaint in the bowl.
Yeah.
If they've got a complaint, they put it there. And by the way, the colloquial word in certain households for the toilet is the throne. It is coronation weekend. There's a real thread here that we could,
Yes, post your ideas or your name and address into
the throne. Yes. Make Charles's day memorable. Don't be a wet wipe.
That takes me back to the illegal recording of a phone call.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Hopefully
yes.
that's well buried.
Unfortunate.
It's fun.
Yeah.
People won't be expecting the parish council to have a big old toilet. And if you get it in first time, you get a prize. If not, something silly or we'll talk. Yeah.
I think a combined
Instead of a hoopla, it would be a poopla.
Well, there you go. You see, who said we didn't have an imagination?
They had a toilet pan game at Stone Village Fair.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
They didn't know.
Yes. They do.
See, so it's not unheard of.
All right, so we'll
There's
try and
something called
bring
water, John.
drainage in a bit with
I've got them all
Sam's
in
toilet.
it.
Air Ambulance are asking for £300.
How much?
Now,
We have £240 left in our donation.
I think 300 is setting a bit of a unfortunate precedent, really. That's rather a lot. But I think sort of 150 or something is not unreasonable.
How much do we normally give?
I thought 100.
Yeah.
As you know, I'd always rather give it to the homeless charities, but there it is.
I mean, based on obviously with Greg and
They have been here.
and
Yeah.
I think they've been here twice because there was the gent who fell off the ladder, wasn't there, last year?
Don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely, yeah.
Yes.
So based on the fact that they've been in the village
Okay.
twice in the last year, maybe not 300, but
Oh, that's 200 then.
200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real one for 200?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Kent Men of the Trees, Kent Plan Tree.
I sent round the letter that I had where they want, us to plant trees.
I was confused. Were they providing the trees?
Well, they're saying that what they want is somewhere where the trees can go. That's what they want. And if you remember, we were asked this by Ashford,
Yes.
and we gave the
Down Buds
names.
Lane, and then down Buds Lane, and then they never took any notice of it
Yes,
afterwards.
but it's that
When
sort
Kevin-
of thing.
Kevin something asked me about it.
Yeah.
more trees. I mean, I love trees, but we have a lot of trees.
And Chris, actually, our tree warden, did say that there are loads of free saplings which we are unable to take up because apart from private land, areas identified as ABC land are not released for planting. There is also significant antagonism to the planting of trees near many folks' homes as they don't like leaves in autumn.
Oh. But we're not allowed to put them on private land, are we?
Well, we're not, but we did, I think you'd spoken, hadn't you? It was down Buds, I think.
Kevin, whatever his name
Kevin
is.
Court and
Charlie Parsons was happy to have some. So I
And
passed it
they're
all on to
small
the lady at
trees.
Ashford, and she
Yeah.
said, "Oh, very interesting," and did nothing about it.
What type of trees are they? I mean, if they're
Green
big
ones.
oak, if
And
they're
the-
big oak trees, then no. But
No,
what
well,
about
this
the
is
school?
it.
They
This
might
is-
have a couple
This
of
is the issue
small
I've
ones.
always had with trees in this village, where to put them, and it's silly just putting them anywhere
Anywhere.
where they're going to be a pain later. But one of Ashford's, in fact, it came up on there, something I read today, that once again, some time ago, Aspire said because it's Ashford Borough Council land, they wanted to plant trees on. If you remember, up on Poppy Farm Field,
Yes.
they identified two sites. One was between Woodland View and the play area, and the
Yeah.
other was beside the paddock. Well, as we pointed out, if you plant trees between Woodland View and the play area, parents can't see what their children are up to. So we said no to that one, but we said yes, okay, and it was sort of almost like a little gathering. And if you notice, I've seen that they do seem to be going now to planting trees very close together.
It's the fact.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? It's the in thing now.
It's
It's rather than-
So we haven't requested the trees. We're
No,
expected
no,
to
this is
plant
what-
so many
yes.
trees per year.
Yes, it was the Queen's Green Canopy was this one, and
Okay.
it's a tree for everybody that lives. It's
I mean, because if they're small, small trees that don't, slow growth. I don't know enough about trees, but obviously there's that whole line down at the very bottom of the school field, which currently they've got a huge drum thing, which actually from a school, it might be quite nice for the privacy as long as the trees don't get.
Well, when this came up before, I did ask the school, and
that when
she
Miss-
said that was
Miss
Miss
Frost?
yes, Miss Frost, and she said no, they didn't want any more trees.
But I think if you knew the type of trees and they weren't going
Yes,
to be big oak
definitely.
trees that could at some point potentially cause, fall or branches falling. Small silver birch trees are quite pretty. They create quite a bit of privacy. Mr. Hawkins might have a different point of view. He's just getting involved with the Horticultural Society, where I think they're going and doing some things for the children. So I know he wants to get
Private
involved
land,
more.
really, that they're after.
I mean, there's two concepts here. One is trees needing to be planted on public land. If they are looking for land to plant trees on as a an environmental policy, and they're looking for a private landowner to put trees on. Is that a concept?
Yes, yes, because...
So, I mean, I could provide that.
Right.
I could,
Well, you all...
I could provide an acre of land for trees if it was required, but I don't know whether that's appropriate.
Maybe Tim Piper could provide a field, Stocks Road, and make sure the trees are laid out in a certain way that reflect a potential future road network
You
as
see,
well.
But
I mean, I think private land.
I could do that,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether it's appropriate. I just don't.
you see.
Well, can we?
Are you making an offer, Alan?
I could provide.
Add to the Lloyd Smith Arboretum.
Well,
Yes.
I could
Yeah, for
provide
the
an acre,
future.
half an acre of field that would be happily planted with trees.
Well, you all had this, because I checked it and I'd sent it to you, because I wasn't
Yeah.
sure whether
I thought I might be seen to be partisan, so I didn't put my name forward.
Oh, I think we would be supporting you.
I think.
Yes.
Well, let's,
I think that
let's cut
that's
this short
what
by
I'm
saying
saying.
that if we put Alan forward for half an acre or an acre, then we've done something, Alan's
Yes.
done something,
Yes.
everyone's happy.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to be seen to be
No. Coming forward.
but if it's looking for land to plant trees on, I can help.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Good.
But it can, I haven't printed it off, because it gave you an actual a suggestion
Yeah.
of what they were looking for.
We could have our new MP come and plant one of the trees.
Or I can have a parish council.
Well, I'm thinking of a succession of celebrities. We could all come and plant one.
Each of the parish council could have their own tree.
Come on,
Yes.
we were trying to make progress earlier. So
Yeah, sorry.
that's done then.
Well, that's 7 trees they counted for.
Payments for authorisation, the clerk has come up with more expenses. £100 and 74p. That will actually be the right number, won't it, now, because you haven't got any wine left.
No, no wine left, but there's juice left.
There is white wine there.
It's not called the wine.
No, the white wine's
Yes,
there.
it's the white one.
No, there's some white left, I think.
Yes.
Who wants
You
white?
can't take it back to a shop.
There's a lot to it. So
Take it out.
I'll have a wee
No,
drop.
thank you.
Yeah.
A wee drop.
You may notice stamps. Quite a lot of stamps. Only a little, because I could. That's lovely.
I have a little bit as well.
It's just
Yes, the stamps I got 4 lots of second class and
That's good, thank
one of
no, thank you.
first before
No.
they go up.
you. Yeah, sure,
Wait,
good
yeah.
idea.
Because I use them for planning more than anything.
Easy plot
That
of
I can't deliver to.
Quick point of information, by the way. If you've got old stamps without the barcode on, they've extended the user
July,
date
yeah,
to July.
July.
But if you'd like to, there's a free post address that you can send all your unused stamps away, and they'll send you the new ones.
I did that, yeah, I did that with mine.
I had heard that.
Yes, I did.
All right, come on.
Right.
So, are we all right to approve the clerk's expenses?
Yes.
Yes.
Proposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Colin? Yes.
Seconded?
Yes.
Sam? Right, and all approved, yes. Working party reports, caretaker?
Alive and kicking.
I'm rather interested to see that he's reversed.
I know, I've got to tell her.
Well, there you are, she'll have to go and bash him up. Right, so caretaker, that's enough. Finance, we've got the monthly transaction statements that you will have seen.
Yes.
If there's anything.
Does anyone have any concerns? They look fairly straightforward to me.
No. I have no concern.
Alfred worn his boots out again. Everyone happy?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, okay, that's done. Planning, the decision on Anchor Barn, the previous Anchor Barn one.
Yeah, nothing else.
Open spaces,
Well, Alan, knows.
That's nothing I've got to report.
Well, I did send you all the photos of the play park, which is in the open
Yes,
space.
yes.
Yes.
Did we know that was happening?
Sorry?
No.
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 And Karen and Sarah, the girls that
Mm.
were wanting the sensory play park, I had an email from them today saying, you know, it looks really lovely, they're really pleased, and thanks to the council for
Quite
what we've
right.
done.
Yeah.
However, when I spoke to Alf about it, he said that there are other play parks that have done it, and in the piece that I sent you today from Ashford on play parks, they say they have been improving play parks around the borough, so that's obviously why.
Sure.
But what they have said, obviously not on the agenda, but I thought perhaps we could bring it up here. Karen is now really busy, and obviously Sarah had her health problems. So now that they've got this new bit, the money that they were raising, they are asking whether we think it would be okay if they gave it to the school for the pool fund. Now obviously it wasn't us raising the money, it was them.
Raise the money.
So I'm not sure how it's up to us to say, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would have said that it's
Is it-
going back to the school and the youngsters.
It's up to them, isn't it? But it's
That- I
nice
think-
they've asked because
Yes.
they
Yeah.
within our remit.
I would have said,
Yes.
yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
No,
What's it for?
The pool fund, the school
They've got to do
have got
some
swimming pool.
refurbing.
Oh, right.
They've
Yeah.
got to get a new
Yeah, pool
boiler
codes.
and possibly
Mm.
some
So this
upgrades.
takes the rug out from under the process of collecting for a play park.
Yes, because they're happier now.
Oh, so they're completely happy with what's been
Well,
done.
I mean, it
To a
doesn't,
certain extent.
remove the fact that Wittersham does need
A play park.
a decent, upgraded, advanced, modern
This is what
play park.
This is what is rather irritating about it from my point of view. It's now about 18 months since I first talked to the Chief Executive about us taking over the village green, and with the aim of doing something about the play park. That's after the play parks officer from Ashford had come out and said, we're halfway down the league table and there's no chance of any investment anytime soon. I put in a fresh thing to the Chief Executive after she had stalled for over a year and she wanted a new thing in writing. I did that on January the 31st, which they of course naturally have done nothing about again. They probably just don't want to do it. And then all of a sudden they go and spend some money on the play park. I mean, it's just,
It's a bit
it's
annoying.
beyond bizarre.
Yes.
I mean,
They
to,
did.
to be honest, I mean, Wittersham should have
A better one.
a
And in,
quality
and in a
play park
better
overall.
place, because it's not in a good
So,
place.
so I can't, what I can't quite get to terms with yet is that we've instigated this beginnings of this collection for a play park.
We didn't
And-
instigate it.
Well, somebody
They
did. Somebody in the
They did.
village
Yes,
did
well, it's the girls.
with our approval.
Yes, we supported it.
And now it's being said, well, actually, we're not going to go ahead with it. We're going to give it something else.
Is there a substantial amount of money in it?
I don't
or is
know,
it a
shouldn't
try?
say.
They weren't the only
So
people.
my concern is, again, it's, I mean,
Yeah.
Wittersham doesn't have municipal facilities, it doesn't have a play park, it doesn't have a bowling green, it doesn't have tennis courts, unlike every other village. And again, we're sort of, well, abandon the ship, throw in the towel, let's do something different.
Well, I
And
think,
that's
I
just-
think
That just disappoints me.
not that I can speak for them entirely, but obviously theirs was to upgrade the site that was already there.
Yes,
Is that
I-
right? Rather than having a new one.
But
Obviously,
it was an initiative in the right direction.
Yes, but
Well,
that's
they were
been
going to
done.
have a sensory play park on
But
Coronation
there was
Field.
a new piece of equipment there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so,
New
so
piece-
to a certain extent, they've got their wish as such,
Yes.
and they're quite happy. So
But our wish is to have,
Yeah.
one like Bennenden, one
Like
like Bennenden,
Bennenden,
one
yes.
like Smarden, one like Staple Cross.
but is it then us to say, well, give us that fundraising money? Because as you said,
It's
they
a difficult one.
fundraised it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be right either.
No,
I'm
no,
not
whereas
saying that.
I agree. I think at the top of the road,
I'm just showing my frustration
Yeah.
that,
Well, I don't very often go there, and I probably still won't go there because it is quite far. So by the time we've walked
Yes,
there with
yeah,
Sophie,
yeah.
she's tired, and I always think there should be a big one, nice one in the middle
Yeah.
of the village, and that should be at the top of the road. But that's
So maybe what we do then is to make a couple of points. One is that the money that they raised, it's their remit what they want to do with it. Okay,
I agree.
mean, it's not our
I agree
decision,
with that.
but we can also make then I'll remind them that we have plans still to build or to have built a play area at the standard of Benenden, wherever. And you know, if they would like to contribute that to that fund, then we'd be happy to accept that as well.
Yes.
So put the responsibility, if you like, onto them, and because they are the ones that raised it.
Yes.
But make them aware that, with respect to the school, that's not
given
the
up
only.
on
Exactly.
No, I agree with that. I think it's a good way of doing it.
Because it could be that some people that donated might not have children at the school. So they might, you know, take the decision that actually they do put it into another playground.
Well, we had certain people who, and I'm not naming it because of being live, but we had people who actually said they would fund it, that haven't funded, whatever the pot is, that hasn't had that person's contribution.
Sure, yeah.
But if there was a more, dare I say, ambitious plan,
yes.
you know, for the whole village, then they might be, and they don't even actually live in the village right now.
Sure, indeed. Well, it's all rather frustrating, as I say, making no progress with Ashford. I don't know, it may be that Ashford have absolutely no interest in doing it. On the other hand, but if that is true, why the hell don't they just tell us? I mean, all I went to them originally for was say, can you tell us in principle whether you would be willing to discuss it? And just get nowhere. And now it's, oh, can you make a definite proposal? So I made a definite proposal. Well, okay, it's only 6 weeks so far, but it is 6 weeks. Not Pete.
Or do we get to the point and go, well, they're not going to help us revalue round and try and do, I think Benenden was a community one, wasn't it? Or somewhere
Well,
near.
you see, they've got clever things like the Harmsworth Trust, and then the community shop raises far more money than you'd ever imagine.
Yeah.
And they've got private donors. I mean, you know, if you put
It's
your
a
hand
different
up
village.
Yeah.
in Benenden for a new church tower, you've got it in a fortnight.
Different
Yeah.
place. Different place. But the only help that we're looking for, I mean, obviously funding would be useful,
Yeah.
but the only help we're really looking for is for them to cede the village green to us. Now, okay, that is land in their ownership, but the legislation prevents them doing anything with it other than recreation.
I see.
You see, so if they gave it to us, we would say, okay, now we will look after it. You know, we may look for grants here and there, and we would like to put a village, a play area on part of it, because it's a lot closer than where the present one is. I mean, I know it's the same piece of grass, but when you say it's a long way for you to walk with Sophie, all right.
Well, I meant for the school rather than
Indeed,
school.
but you know, that last piece of going from the edge of the village green where the boulder is over to the play area is probably another 250 yards.
So, notwithstanding your written
My
approach,
pitch, yeah.
what have you, was that for the ceding of the ownership or for the
Yeah.
play? Okay.
No, that was seeding. That I said
Yeah.
because I'd like to put a play area on
Yeah.
it. I would also like us to actually prepare the ground better, because it is sort of worse than the average meadow.
So we've had
It's really lovely.
you put forward a proposition,
Yeah.
and therefore, in my mind, there's a decision that's sitting somewhere, but not with us.
Yeah, with them.
Has Mick been involved in this?
He knows about it.
I think that
He's
before
not directly involved. It's been directly between me and the chief executive twice.
Well, notwithstanding that, I think Mick is sort of easing towards demob happiness. I could sense that tonight with his sense of humour in his address. Maybe his last gesture, his last hurrah, is sticking his pin on this. And I think we need to up the ante. That they've got to come to a decision.
Yeah.
And the advantage to them is X. And it's a, dare I say it, it reminds me of the rugby referee's appeal to the fourth official, which says, is there any reason why I don't give this try? Look at it from the completely other end. We'd like to go ahead. Is there any reason why you can't see this to us?
Absolutely.
And get Mick involved. I mean, you've done a sterling job so far. You've put all the building blocks in place. We need to give it a shove. To continue my sporting metaphor.
Yeah.
I mean, what is annoying also, you're not even had a acknowledgement.
That's just downright rude.
It is really. I mean, I chased it when it was dead for 18 months. I chased it out twice in between with the Chief Executive's office, never got anywhere until eventually I had her absolutely pinned down and she said, oh, send me a written proposal. And you think, well, after whatever it was then, 15 months or something, you know, this is...
There's a risk of being slightly pedantic here. Was your written proposal sent in an old-fashioned snail mail or by an email? And there's a reason I ask that is that if it was sent by email, right, sometimes it can go onto a minion's desk or whatever, all right. The old-fashioned way sometimes of sending it by recorded delivery, someone has to sign it. I've seen situations where that has mysteriously found its way to a chief executive's desk because someone's actually signed for it. It's all about accountability.
In my case, I was sitting across the table and I gave it to her.
Oh, did you? Right, okay.
I couldn't, believe me, the first
you know what
time...
you should have done? You should have said, can we have a selfie?
The first time, I actually talked her through it and gave her the maps and everything in 10 minutes in the margins of the opening meeting of the Land Mapping Commission, and she took the papers away with her. I then chased it up sometime later to see what was happening through her office, and I traced it down to Mark James, who you know, and he then said, oh, it's with the lawyers. Well, I wasn't trying to get it to the bloody lawyers, I was trying to get an idea of whether they were willing to discuss it.
That's right.
Which was just, in other words, who's got the biggest pile to lose it under. So then I chased it up again later, and then that's when she came up with this thing about give her a written proposal. So I wrote, and we prepared, did it go on letterhead as well, I think? Oh, when I did the one in the meeting, by the way, I got Yvonne to write a letter the next week to say, on letterhead, saying, this just to confirm that you have got the, you've had that discussion with the with the chairman. So in other words, there was something for the file. It wasn't, which they probably threw in the bin, but it was actually a proper document. Okay. This time I did it all with Yvonne, and I sat there in the meeting, which we were discussing other things on. She called the meeting, and I said, why, by the way,
can I suggest? Well, can I suggest that we have a template, and every parish councillor individually sends a letter, CC Councillor Burgess, right? Because then that puts it as a matter of record. You can't ignore 7 letters or 6 letters because the two of you have already written one. So then there's 8 letters that go through. Okay, I can't think of any, short of picketing her office in person. I can't think.
The trouble is,
which is plan B.
The trouble is that they can always still say no. In other words,
well, yes, but then at least we then know.
We would know that.
And we can. And when someone from the village says, well, "Why haven't you done it?" We put it forward. We know how to make it happen.
Now it's been rejected.
And it's been rejected, right? And the beauty things that are rejected, you can always go back with the.
What may happen next, quite. Separately to what Paul has just said, what might happen next is that depending on ACRK, I might well be looking for another meeting, like I said earlier, with either Jerry or her or both on ACRK. And if I see her, I have the opportunity of saying, it's another 2 months, where is it?
And the other thing, by the way, is talking about another 2 months, is by the time we might get any headway, the Ashford Borough Council elections will have taken place. We don't know who's going to be elected to succeed Mick, but if it's the chap we met, it might be an idea to start involving him. I understand from him he's very active at the moment.
Yes, he is.
And then therefore.
Which one of the two do you mean? Because we met 2.
Johnny.
He came to the last meeting.
Johnny Shilton.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was offered to do some work.
No, that's not him. That's not Johnny Shilton. He came to a previous meeting. Mick's nominated successor from the Conservative Party is Johnny Shilton.
Yeah.
No relation.
He was an earlier meeting.
Well, that's who told me.
The one who came last time is it someone else who wants to stand?
Independent, yeah.
But the reality is we got on 2 matters. One's about the playground, the money.
So, going back to that money, so am I asking them to let us have it?
No, I think we said to put it back to them.
I think we got to register with the village that in fact the long-term idea is, as Alan suggested, that we need to keep that going.
Yeah, so I think put it back to them and say, look,
Irrespective
Yeah,
in some Coronation Field, in Alan's beautiful, constructed
Arbour.
Then they might choose to. They might choose to put it in a pot and keep it if we do get this piece of land and put it towards fund. But it's, I think it's down to
depending on
them.
whether we get the piece of land.
If we get a piece of
Yeah.
land,
Then
if we get a piece of land, there's then a big job and a lot of money needed, and it won't be done in one go.
No.
No.
To do a play area there.
And that will probably be a couple of years' time, won't it, anyway? So you might as well just let the school have it. I don't know how much they've got, but I can't.
I think give them
the
the option, make it clear, give them the option, and if they, I mean, it's not unusual if someone wants to give the parish council money for something, you can ring fence it.
Well, we get into the same situation, aren't we, that in practice centralising all the services on the sports field, etc., if at all possible.
Well,
Which isn't, you know,
I
another
will
burning issue.
I will tell you something about, in terms of a big hole that one can fall into. I'll tell you about that when we finish the meeting.
right. Very good.
Okay, on we go. Highways. Pothole Central.
It's as Mike explained. I mean, they are appearing all over the place. The
Yeah.
thing that for the village, it's right by the Swan on that bend there,
That's
and
right.
the comment about someone on a bicycle,
Yeah.
doesn't have to be at night time.
No.
Hit something like that, and you could be gone on
But
under, and it's not.
night time in the rain, you do not know.
And it's not just cars. We get agricultural vehicles and lorries, etc., etc., etc.
And you're trying to avoid that, and somebody's coming around the other side of the bend.
Yeah.
I reported the potholes at the
Yes.
Swan the other day. I took photos
Yeah.
and reported it, so I've got a number and I've got the photos, so I can send that to Mike.
Yeah, you can say.
But
it's
if you
really bad
check with
ones.
me first, I can give you the earlier number that is also there.
One of those
which is the
special
one I did
areas
7
of
weeks ago.
scientific interest.
Okay, PROWs.
Well, it's still a bit on the muddy side, but
Okay,
hoping it will dry out soon.
cemetery, churchyard.
Covered that already.
Still a bit on the muddy side.
Okay. Reports for noting from reference to outside bodies. I had the COUT meeting on the 1st of March.
I forwarded the minutes to everyone, so everyone's got
Okay.
minutes.
Yes, you did.
Right.
You did indeed.
All I'm going to say then is that we had the new chief inspector there, a woman. That was done. There are concerns about the levelling up bill, and I don't know if it's gone yet, but it's done. A letter to Damien Green asking him to try and lobby to stop the government amendment on the levelling up bill for street votes, which the committee felt was a bloody awful idea. Can you believe that an amendment to the bill to allow street votes, which reserves most detail to government regulations done by the minister, it's just an enabling amendment to have street votes, and that takes 13.5 pages on the bill. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't make any sense out of it. Additional training for councillors on the new planning portal has been proposed. It's now been cancelled until the planners come to talk to us in May. Right, items for information. I've got a few. Have you got some?
Right, please let me know if you require nomination papers, as I've got them. You've got my email, Colin.
When?
A few days after once I had your dates, because you are away when the...
I haven't seen it. It didn't come up my emails.
Well, I'll send it again. Only I sent you the nomination papers because
Could you send me another one?
you need to ask somebody to... If you want to stand, you need to ask somebody to take them in because it's from the 23rd.
But what?
No, 23rd of March until the 4th of April.
You have to take them in personally.
Take them in personally.
You
And
have
it's
to.
because they will check them over to make sure that you've filled it in correctly. So it's best to make an appointment to see somebody.
They used to check them, but last time they didn't. They
Well, they're
changed
saying
it.
now that they will check them to make sure that you've got them.
That's much better.
You've got them right.
Okay. Sue?
And the cut-off
No,
date is
no, I
when?
haven't got anything.
4 p.m. on the 4th of April.
That's the cut-off point.
That's the cut-off point.
Keith, I mean,
I will do it again, but I did
Yeah.
send
I
you an
will
email
tell you
explaining it
what
all
Will you send it?
To
I will send
everybody,
it
to,
to
to everybody.
to everybody.
I think it's then we all know that we've got it.
Okay. Right.
you want it.
And when I do that, I will let the chap that I've been having meetings with, because I will tell him who I've given nominations papers to. He will then contact you if you haven't sent them in time to remind you.
Right, okay, all very good.
Mm.
Right, Sue, any other bits of information?
Just one quick question. I know we come up briefly about, we're speaking about Wi-Fi for the hall. We're currently with Vodafone, who I believe we used to use. We've got Dongle for the council, but I know that Paul has maybe spoken to you, Jeremy, about.
I've got an email about it, what he wants to do. He and I discussed it. There's an ISDN line in the cupboard here for the post office, and he reckons he can get the BT to change it into a broadband. It's 20 quid down, and then it's £28 or something a month plus VAT for 2 years, special deal on the superfast. Which will give him a router in here, which he thinks will cover here, and then he himself will buy the bits to extend it. The one thing earlier, so at the back. He will get an extender then to run another router in the main hall. He thinks he can do that for about 300.
Brilliant.
And he has said that he did this true. He had a conversation with me, and I said I thought we might be willing to share the subscription.
That was going to be my question.
And,
To see if that was.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, after all, we've paid these things before, we've never got anywhere with them. It seems to me that there's no reason why we shouldn't split the subscription with the village hall.
Yep.
Well, obviously, once we've got the quotes, I'll submit them
Yeah,
and then get signed off properly. But I just wanted to sort of ensure that was.
because it's then a value to us and to everybody else.
Okay.
But I mean, that's what should have been done before.
Can I just suggest that if you need us to say yay or nay, can we do that outside of not wait for the next council meeting, but then we wait and then we put an order in, we'll miss the
No,
coronation.
you're right. Well, it can
We
be
do
done
that
by
by email.
delegation.
Or should we delegate that to
Yeah.
the clerk?
Provided it's not ridiculous.
Done. Done. So that's your village hall. Anything else?
No.
No?
Nothing.
Okay, a couple of mine. Village hall broadband then we've just done. Stepping Stones Nursery, they're closing.
Yes.
I went to see Shannon on Monday afternoon and talked to her and her father, who's the secretary. The decision really is, I was hoping that it was sort of fixable, but no, she's pretty definite that it's going. She's given notice to everybody. The story is pretty dire, really. I mean, it's very frustrating. I had a quick chat with Mike Hill tonight about it, and he didn't surprise him, but he sort of shared the view that it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The government are driving these places out of business, and then they'll complain that no one is working because they can't put the children in the nursery. It's financial. It's just impossible.
It's the money.
I won't bother you now because it's getting very late. I have asked Mike if he can track down Jeanette Pryor, who's the woman in KCC. I want to interrogate her about whether some of what she said to the nursery is really true and whether it's got a proper legislative basis. But again, I won't worry now. Solar panels, the applications for solar together in Ashford are expected to open on March the 20th, if anybody wants solar panels. That's all I have got. So if you turn the machine off, we'll close the meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I will tell you a little horror story.
Is it off, Yvonne?
Hang on.
Yeah,
You're going to tell us a nice bedtime story.
horror story.
Oh, that's